you're saying you could travel back in time.
But Bruce, I can fix things. I can save people. I can save my mom. I can save your parents.
You could also destroy everything.
What's going on, gals and ghouls, freaks and geeks? It is Corpses for Conversation, a music, movie, media, gaming, geek culture podcast. And we are back with another roundtable sessions. And this time around, it's about the movie, The Flash. It's going to be a phenomenal episode. Of course, I'm in the room with Toxic J.
My ego is far too big to say you're welcome to someone else.
SoCal Leatherface.
That's where you keep Superman? In a big scrotum?
Dimebag the Clown.
I know sex exists. I've just never experienced it.
And then myself, of course. This is going to hurt. So what's going on, guys?
Chilling. Yeah,
Did
not
we
too
all
bad.
like it? Were we excited? Did we get all crazy with popcorn and soda and throw stuff at the screen?
Man, I think I've had too much popcorn for the last 2 days.
Oh, my popcorn was done before the movie even started.
I was ready to get one of those flash buckets, man. You see those new flash buckets they had at the AMC? They light up. They're like those ghost face ones.
So you're saying they were gone in a flash, right?
They were. You know what?
Unintended.
There was one left, and I was just looking at it like, oh, I want that so bad, but I did not want to have to pay $25 for it. So I had to let it go. And then the guy right behind me grabbed it. So I had to watch him enjoying it next to me the whole movie.
The only one they had that mine, they had the Rocket Guardians of the Galaxy one.
Oh,
Yeah, they've been making some cool popcorn tins these days.
Well, actually, I was supposed to go watch it again today, but I decided to go see Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Hopefully, maybe at some point in time we can review that. But
I'm down for that. Yeah.
It was a pretty good movie. I liked it. The only popcorn tin that they had was for that shitty movie. What is it called? Fast
Furious?
Fast 13, something like that.
Was it just like a big X-shaped popcorn bucket?
No, they had whatever.
The Dodge Charger one, right?
Yeah, there we go. We're not here to
Advertising
talk
cars
about
for
that
popcorn.
shit.
Yeah. We're getting away from the topic matter at hand here.
Yeah,
So
we're here to
heard me
talk
say-
about another shitty franchise. No, just kidding. Depending on who you ask.
You guys heard me intro the episode. It is The Flash. It's the movie we're going to be talking about. I'm going to, of course, lay the floor over to Toxic J since he is the bigger comic aficionado of the group compared to myself. Let's rock and roll into the story. Toxic J, if you would please.
Once again, like every episode, I'm going to ask everyone else on the roundtable, what did you think of the movie overall? I'm going to start with you, Zom.
Well, okay, so first
Hold on.
impression.
Let me prepare for the haterade.
Let's get the Haterade cups.
All right, go.
Let me pop some tops.
Well, don't shed a tear, Haterade is here. The new Haterade Thirst Quencher non-fruit juice comes equipped with 30 milligrams of potassium, 14 grams of carbohydrates, and 100% haterism. Oh, and don't forget the electrolytes with all natural flavors, plus a numerous flavored varieties such as orange, fruit punch, grape, and plenty more. So to requench what you love to hate, drink Haterade.
Oh, yeah. Let it flow, baby. Let it flow.
And that's it for the episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, don't hate on my sound effects, sir. At least my sound effects and graphics are better than in this movie. I crack myself up sometimes.
No.
So first impressions out the gate before we give like our actual numerical system of what we're going to rate it towards the end. It took me a minute to catch on to the storyline of where they were going with it. But once I did, I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is starting to tie things in that we've seen over the last few years. The only thing that kind of threw me for a loop, and I guess I can say it's like the beginning sips of some haterade. Me being into videography and all that, and I understand like some people may not know it, but when they use certain hues and color tones in movies, sometimes they overdo it. And for me, just personally, I think they went too far with a lot of the warmth scenes where you see a lot of yellows and auburns and bright orange colors, because I get it's the Flash and it's his color tone and all, but it was over saturated. And the same difference is when they had the scenes with the other Flash from the time point, there was a lot of blues, and it just started to give me a headache because they were they weren't melding it very nicely and being subtle with it. It was just like, bam, here it is. Bam, here it is. And it was like in every scene. That was like my only issue. So out the gate, storyline wise, I was really happy, but I was getting annoyed with the videography side of things.
I mean, that's been known for DC, though. DC always oversaturates their movies.
Big time.
I've noticed.
Yeah. It's like every hero gets their own color, their own video filter. Remember when they made that Man of Steel and they said it was too dark for a Superman movie? That should have been a Batman movie.
I 100% agree on that.
Are you talking about Batman versus Superman or Man of Steel?
Man of Steel? Like they said that should have had like a higher, more saturation. And even know that if you look on YouTube, people did their own like adjusting and said, this is the movie we could have got. And I would have wanted that version, a more brighter version.
Yeah, on that same principle, what Dime says, it's kind of true because now that I think about it, when we got the first iteration of the Justice League, it was very bright. And then when Zack Snyder came along and gave us his true cut of it, the color tone and everything was perfect because it was not too dark. It was not too bright. It was just perfect cadence throughout the whole movie when it came to the videography side of things and the CGI.
What about you, SoCal? Your opinion?
About the film, I mean, I knew it was going to be loosely based off of the Flashpoint, comic books, the time paradox. I knew they had to adjust it for, the movie universe. So I wanted to see how they were going to bring in the storyline, but, obviously leave a lot of big things out. And I was really curious to see what this director was going to bring to the table. His name is Andy Muschietti. He is a horror director, most known for his movies Mama back in 2013 and the It franchise, like those remakes. So I wanted to see what he would bring to the table, see if he could bring what Sam Raimi brought to like Spider-Man and see how he handled this storyline, see if he was going to make it dark. And there are aspects of this film that do get pretty dark. The way he handles the death scenes, the way he handles just like the darker sides of people's psyche. I think he handled it really well. So I went in looking forward to what I was going to be watching. And I feel like I wasn't disappointed personally.
Dime?
I had low expectations going into this movie due to DC's past, history with movies. I was fairly entertained by this movie. I loved it. The fact that they brought back the old themes in the movie. I know I'm jumping ahead, but the themes, bringing back the Batman theme song and the Superman theme songs and just melding all those in. Because I'm a soundtrack guy. I love soundtracks. This had a whole Back to the Future meets superhero type of feel to it. And yeah, I love this movie, man.
I'm going to have to piggyback off you, Dime. And I love the movie too, a lot. Now, was it a perfect movie? No, it wasn't. But then you got to ask yourself that same question. Has there ever been a comic book movie that's really been perfect? No, not at all. Not that I can remember. It's loosely actually based on DC Comics, The Flash. It is loosely based on DC Comics, the Flashpoint series. That was, at the time, their big event. And it also kind of, in the comic world, it helped reset the whole DC universe in general. If I'm not mistaken, I think they reset it with the Rebirth series. I'm not sure.
I believe
it
it was
the New 52
New
or
52s.
the Rebirth. It was one of those two. I think it was yeah, you're right. The New 52s, which were actually a great series itself. I read it, and then I watched the animated movie, the Flashpoint Paradox. There's differences way noticeable in this movie. They did not have Thomas Wayne as Batman, which I would have loved to see that portrayal. The actor that played Negan in The Walking Dead.
I was about to say that. It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I was about to say, if they had to bring him back for Thomas Wayne, I would have loved to see that.
Yeah,
but the thing is, he was open about it. Like, I want to play Batman, Thomas Wayne. And it's just his version of Batman, if the junkies don't know, is basically Batman had a kid or fused with the Punisher. Didn't care. He used guns. Batman doesn't use guns. Bruce Wayne doesn't. And then Martha Wayne in the story was the Joker, which is a trip on its own. I knew they were going to change it. For a lot of the comic nerds, such as myself, kind of was like, what the hell? This and that. I think they felt like that was going to come. So they're like, you know what? Let's give Michael Keaton Batman, just to kind of take away the heat. And, for the most part, it worked because I loved it.
Save the movie, period.
It did.
The thing with that is that they showed it in the preview. They should have left it out of the preview and had it be a huge surprise. Would the movie have been more successful? Probably not. Because I think a lot of people are going to see this movie because Michael Keaton's back as Batman.
But you know what? That's a good thing. And I'm glad they showed him in the trailer, because honestly, if they didn't, I probably wouldn't. I would probably wait till it comes out on Max or watch it much later. But the fact of, being 80s kids, just, we get hyped. That was my Batman. That was Zom's Batman. That was
Danny DeVito's Batman, and only Batman.
Yeah. I compromised, and I totally enjoyed it. And I had probably about, I don't know, 5 oh shit moments in here. Some of them were kind of small. Some of them were really big, but we'll get into that as the review goes on. We're going to do things a little different. Just going to do like a rundown, and then we're just going to you guys can give your opinions. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. The intro of the film, in my opinion, and it's probably been stated before on YouTube or the internet and stuff, it felt like a Justice League episode to me from the cartoon. Barry, he wants to be the superhero, but he's trying to manage his personal life. But when he does get called, especially by Alfred, he's basically the cleanup crew. That's how actually an episode would progress in the cartoon. So I was like, okay, I like this.
Were you referring more to the regular Justice League animated show or Justice League Unlimited?
It doesn't matter, but it's just in the same universe, different title.
Oh, okay.
It just felt as a whole Justice League episode.
Yeah, okay.
I did like how they had that false start when he's about to run to go like save the day. You start to see the Flash logo come down and the girls shout out to him and it just disappears.
Oh my God! Flash!
Hi.
I love you!
Thank you.
That pissed me off. I was like, you damn Gen Zers, leave that man alone.
Like, you're going to eat that chocolate bar?
And actually, I can't remember for the life of me, but that girl that says, oh my God, I love you, you're the Flash, etc., actually became a superhero later in the comics. I forgot the name and it's escaping me at the moment, but people can do their research if they actually really want to invest in it.
I like the nod to the annoying barista, though, like the whole Starbucks vibe in the beginning. I thought that was great. I was cracking up during that whole scene.
You know what? I hated that scene only because the fact that it was like, I've been in that position before. Just when
we all have.
Like when you don't really want to talk and you're in a hurry and they're just like, I literally wanted to like run through the wall like this and just, or through the movie. No, through the movie screen and just punch the guy. I'm like, give him his freaking food.
Give me coffee.
I just love the irony that like Barry Allen's like the fastest man alive, and yet he's always late everywhere he goes.
Also, what I did like, okay, we didn't get Henry Cavill back as Superman. Obviously,
no.
Sorry, spoilers. I'm sorry. Everybody knew he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
But he did pop up on the screen for a second when they were showing the televised news of Superman fighting a volcano. To the normies, I'm sorry. We love you too, but we're here to educate you. That scene flew by you and didn't know what it was. But actually, that scene itself was a nod to the 1940s, the Superman cartoon show. And in an episode, Superman does save people from a ruptured volcano. So I like that little nod to the old series.
Yeah, they tied in a lot of things. Me and you even talked about that prior to recording the episode, TJ, because you were talking to me about it. And I went, I think I remember that because I think it was a volcano that erupted around the Hawaiian Islands, and he kind of like came in and put a stop to it before it wiped out like all of the, Polynesian culture and their people. We weren't talking video feed, and I'm referring this for you, SoCal and Dime, but it was so funny because TJ actually, he felt like a little kid because he got like almost like, oh, all right, you knew that reference, man. Like, yeah. I'm not completely oblivious to it. Like, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you get your information mixed up. You could have thought it was Batman.
He's done it before, I'm sure, at some point in some multiverse.
Well, he did fight Ra's al Ghul in a volcano, so I'll give him that too. Yeah, he did.
There we go. I remember that.
And what else? Your favorite lines? I mean, there was too many one-liners and jokes that, I can't even count nor remember. I love the humor of the film. People compare the moviegoers, the normal moviegoers. We're not normal moviegoers. The people that only know these characters through the movies already associate themselves with Marvel is funny with action, but DC is dark with action. Anyone who's ever actually read a DC comic, there's a lot of humor to it. And I don't get where they think DC can't be humor, or they're just kind of going, oh, well, they're copying Marvel. No, they're on equal terms when it comes to that. So that's why I liked a lot of like the funny lines. I don't have a favorite one, but I just think the dialogue between a little bit of everybody, it just kind of was overall, it was pretty good.
I know DC got a lot of flack for being so dark and just being so serious when James Bond took over.
James Bond.
For DC. You know, he brought that humor from Marvel. He brought that to...
Wait, did you say James Bond?
James Wan. Was it James Wan?
No, it was James Gunn.
James Gunn, my bad. Oh my God. I always get those two confused.
You still have horror on the brain, my friend.
Yeah, James Gunn. When James Gunn came over to DC, he brought that humor from Marvel to DC.
And it worked in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, exactly.
The Suicide Squad.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you? Do you guys agree, disagree with the lines, favorite lines? Do you have anything that's memorable?
Well, my favorite line, it's going to be throwback to the Batman, but those lines where he brought back the old lines where, I'm Batman. And then was it, you want to get crazy? Or you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. It's like, oh, hell yeah,
There were a couple lines that had to be brought back. The I'm Batman, that was all over the commercials. The let's get nuts. That's just a funny line from the first movie. But yes, there was a lot of comedy that they brought into this. It did give away that, Thor Ragnarok, that Guardians of the Galaxy, throwing in that humor. He did bring it to the DC. And I feel like with a character like the Flash, it just fits so perfect. We were talking about the intro to the film. That slow motion scene, and you start to see the babies fall out the window, and you're just like, oh man, this is a dramatic scene. And then he calls it a baby shower, and I just can't stop laughing.
And you know what? That's another on my pinpoint list, is that baby shower scene. I get it. Like, you had to CGI that. It's not like you could put babies in microwaves or throw them off a building to make it more real.
But he put a baby in a microwave.
Well, but surprisingly enough, a lot of people complained about that. Like, the babies look too fake. I'm like, you want a baby get thrown out of a building?
Yeah, but they were overly CGI.
Something's wrong with you.
You got to earn your SAG credits when you're young. All actors have to pay their dues.
It's like, I've heard a good handful of people saying that, if video games can capture likenesses so well that it looks like you're watching a live action film, why can't these film studios produce something like that? So it looks so close to a human. Those babies did look like little, I don't know, man. They look like little mashed potato babies. It did look weird.
And that's the thing. We come from an era where we had to use our imagination. I'm just saying, these kids today want everything presented to them in front. They don't want to think. They just, the graphics look bad. But at least you have graphics. We had 8-bit and 16-bit.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The best of the eras right there, though.
So what do you guys think, actually? And I'll admit, some of the CGI was wonky. Now, I don't know if some scenes worked.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when he was in the multiverse, and when he was in
it's called the Chrono Bowl,
all that, and then how he was remembering all the different time periods in his life. I get that it's not supposed. Come on, you break the sound barrier. Is everything gonna look realistic to you? It's kind of look like cartoony. That part I got.
Barrier when I rip one.
Yeah, see, I heard that was intentional. Like, they wanted it to look more like mannequins, more like toy versions of actual events. It was meant to represent moments rather than being actual pictures. Because if they would have done that Chrono Bowl with just real images and everything looked real, you would get lost in what you're actually supposed to be focusing on, because there'd be so many images flying at you.
The Speed Force, I'm sorry, that's what it was called, the Speed Force that he was in. I totally agree with you, SoCal. It's just you would get lost in the shuffle. And I know it's a comic book movie, but you have to put yourself in a perspective of reading a comic, how you would see that. Obviously, when I read one, they're all in cartoons. They're not real people acting it out.
Yeah, there were so many scenes in this film that do just look like they're right off of a comic book page. Even from the first super fast, his speed run, right from the beginning, we see his shoe light up and he just zooms right off. That looks like the cover of a comic right there.
Yeah, when he just squats down, it's ready to take off. That's what you want. You want it to look like a comic book. That's what you're going to these movies for. Is you want that
exactly action. When people, and yet again, I have to throw our age out there.
What is up with you doing that? Like,
I'm just saying, man.
It's out there. It's
why you got from my age out there? Jesus Christ.
I've reached that
exactly.
point in my life.
I think they're coming after us.
Whenever he says that, I know he's not talking about me. So,
anyways, I've reached that point in my life where I will say, kids, because
damn whippersnappers.
Everybody grew, you
don't know real comic books.
People under 30, when it comes to comic books, horror movies, they grow up on certain things as well as we grown up on ours. I get that. A lot of people under their 30s, their first introduction was Christian Bale, so I get that, but like I always say, to able to respect the present and the past, in the future, you have to respect the past. People nowadays don't want to do that. They don't even bother. I know people that don't watch old movies because they don't like the cinematography. I'm like, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's how they look. But I agree with you, TJ, because we are from that demographic where even though I'm going to go off topic real quick, but even though I like the direction of storytelling of what Christopher Nolan did with Batman, and Christian Bale was a great Bruce Wayne, the laryngitis Batman was awful.
Extremely awful.
I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
I was wanting the Joker going, no, take this fool out. Take him out.
Yeah, you needed subtitles for that, Batman.
I can understand Bane better than Batman. Bane had a mask on and had a natural accent.
Talking about, Batman actors and their performances, I think that Ben Affleck did really good in this film, even though he was only in it for like a portion.
Yeah.
When he was talking to Barry, like in the alley, telling him like not to mess up time and all that, it's like you see it and it's Ben Affleck, but when you hear it, you're just like, that's Batman. You know what I mean? That was just great Bruce Wayne vibes.
Yeah, I did.
I'm still a personal fanboy, and in my just unbiased opinion, with a movie like this, and then of course with Ben Affleck being Batflick, who his best friend coined it, I personally think if they left this movie in the hands of Kevin Smith, he would have knocked it out the park even further.
I think that's the only way Ben Affleck would actually come back as Batman if Kevin Smith ever directed a Batman movie. He'd be like, all right, I'll do it for you.
To be able to tell the tale of this story and know what material to pull from accurately from the comic book and how to caveat that and blend it together, even though that is your friend, you still know that you have to outlay this correctly because you have a huge demographic you have to pander to. And they know you're a comic book guy. And if you screw up, they're going to Jersey grill this movie and it's going to be back to square one for you.
Like me personally, it's a toss up between Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck's Batman. And when I say that, Ben Affleck's Batman to me is if you had some kind of magical powers and you can take someone out from a comic book into reality, you would have Ben Affleck's Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I loved his portrayal as Batman.
Oh, yeah. It was total Frank Miller vibes from that whole
exactly.
Or even Jim Lee's work on Batman.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. And I wish, what was his name? Josh Whedon. I wish he didn't ruin it for Ben Affleck because Ben Affleck is so good at this role.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we got a solo film. I did enjoy the Batman with Robert Pattinson, but honestly, I didn't need him. I don't need him. Now, if they stuck Ben Affleck's version in that, it would have worked either way. I think that's just me, but I think it would have.
We only really
Ben Affleck still be Batman. The two story arcs I think they can do phenomenal with him being in it to portray the storyline would either be a movie with him versus Hush or The Long Halloween, or definitely hands down Court of the Owls. Ben Affleck.
Oh yeah, definitely
for Court of the Owls, that would land it out the park.
And what Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton both have in common? Anybody?
They're Batman.
Well, other than they're Batman.
Good question.
When they were first announced as Batman, nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted them.
Oh yeah, but same thing with Robert Pattinson. Nobody wanted him either. They didn't want Twilight being Batman, Yeah,
and that's what kind of still took me out of that film was because he still was Edward.
It's like, is Batman gonna glitter?
Batman.
I don't think anybody cared when Christian Bale did Batman. I don't think anybody really put up a fuss about it.
I didn't care until he went, and I was like,
I think what made those films
automatic disqualification.
I think honestly, those films, he was a great Bruce Wayne, like you said.
Oh,
but he was a lousy Batman. I did not like the costume at all. And I think what made the legacy of all three films wasn't even him. It was Heath Ledger's Joker.
Heath Ledger's Joker, most definitely. But for me, and I talked about this in a previous episode, the movie for me that tied it in, the best portrayal of a character that's not like mainstream, dude, Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul was the cat's meow in this. Like, it was phenomenal.
Amazing casting for that one.
Yeah, he's a good actor. I just wish he would have looked more like the character's portrayal in comics. But I mean, him as an actor, yes, everything he says, it's like you want to listen. If there's someone that's going to lead like this assassin cult, it's going to be Liam Neeson.
Controversies, mental health. Now, this movie was on the back burner for a couple of years because of switching actors, producers, directors, and then COVID hit. That's not even like half of it.
Yeah, they announced this in 2014.
Yeah, obviously, they have a lot to do with Ezra Miller and his controversies. I mean, if anyone wants to do their investigation, soul search, whatever you want to call it, you can look it up. But we're not going to bring that up. I think overall, a lot of that hurt the film, especially in the box office.
Oh, yeah.
Because of that.
It brought it down a lot. The whole, just all that being over to social media brought it down a lot.
I remember I told a coworker, like, yeah, I just saw The Flash and it was awesome. He goes, oh, I'm not going to see that. I'm not going to support X, Y, and Z. You fill in the blanks. So I think that was one of the reasons why. Actually, it's probably the main reason.
There's truth in that, though, Toxic, what you're saying. There's truth in that, because if it was anybody else and the amount of money wasn't put in prior to it for what happened to the actor in his real life that we saw unfold while this movie was coming out, he would have been completely canceled. That would have destroyed his career before it even got up off the ground and the movie even came out. That would have been it.
And that's why he didn't do a lot of press for the movie.
No.
You know, and that plus there's a writer strike going on. So, you know, a lot of these late night shows are, you know,
and that's
running reruns right now.
Yeah, exactly. So that hurt the promotion of this film too, was the fact that nobody could do any press release for anywhere. You know, and then, like you said, Dime, is the fact that, like, so Warner Brothers didn't let Miller do any press or doesn't talk to no cameras. He was allowed to attend the premiere, but he couldn't talk to any reporters.
They were like, you better not be in front of any freaking camera. I'm
not going to sit here and justify his actions because the man screwed up.
Yeah.
Okay, big time. But but in going forward, I hope he does find the help that he needs. You know, obviously,
I agree with that. Yeah, heck yeah.
He has some kind of mental illness.
I'll just say this: he's definitely looking into help right now. So you know, he's currently in a program. So
I mean, Ezra Miller, he's a talented guy. He's been in some other great movies besides just the DC universe. He's won 10 awards and been nominated 16 times. It's like the guy has got talent. So hopefully he's able to fix whatever it is he needs and he can get back out there pushing out more movies.
And that's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up. The Tale of Two Barrys. Miller plays two versions of Barry Allen. He plays, I'm assuming, in his 30s, and then the younger one is 18. Now, going back and forth between two different personalities, that takes that's really good acting right there.
That is.
It is. And I'm glad you brought that up, though, TJ. To piggyback on that, yes, it shows that you have great range, you have great acting ability, you have you're a method actor at that point. You get really immersed in your character. But that also plays into the fact what we talked about. Like, we hope he gets the mental attention he needs to help rectify whatever's going on with him, because we saw that happen with Heath Ledger. He got so engrossed in the Joker that it was starting to mess with him psychologically. That's why he had to take that medication. He unfortunately got his dosages wrong, and we unfortunately lost him. That same thing. Initially, I was really upset with Ezra, and I wanted them to smear that fool, don't give him any accolades whatsoever. But once I actually saw what was going on, and then I saw the film, I saw right there, I was like, whoa, there's some underlying bipolar disorder here, because for him to be able to do that so freely, and then his portrayal of the 18-year-old Barry, the acting was far better on that side than the side of his current character arc as the Flash. I was tripped out about that. So I'm like, that has to placate somewhere to where it was messing with him mentally. We just didn't see it until it was too late, because he had the stress of carrying such a blockbuster movie and responsibility on his back. And then to top it off, he's still relatively young. That's a lot of pressure to have in the Hollywood bubble.
I mean, I know we said it's a tale of two Barrys, but I also have to give props to the young Barry that we got in the film. Like, I really believe that was Ezra Miller as a kid.
He looked exactly like Ezra Miller as a kid.
He did.
I
don't know if they CGI'd his face or was he actually...
I mean, I think he just looks like that. I was trying to look it up to see if there was some relation. Sometimes they'll use siblings for films, but no, he's just another kid that just kind of looks like Ezra Miller.
We're coming down and working down our way down to the list, and this is the one I wanted to talk about, was the 1989 callback.
Oh,
man. Dude. It has so many callbacks.
Nerd boy life.
Every single time Danny Elfman score hits, it just gives me chills every single time.
Yeah.
See, now how they introduced Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne into this was pretty clever. It was simple, but it worked. You know, he looked like a hobo, obviously. I mean, I don't know if Alfred had cut his hairs too or whatever. I don't know.
That's the way they made it look in the 89. Like, we just reviewed that. It did make it look like Alfred literally did everything for this man. He's a version of Bruce Wayne, just like we get two Barrys. They're two very different people based on, past and upbringing. This Bruce Wayne that we get has been nurtured by Alfred, and without him, he just kind of physically fell apart. Or maybe not visually.
Emotionally, yeah. I'll tell you what, though, I'll never see spaghetti the same way again. Now, I can honestly say I want some bat sketty. Bat sketty I'll have.
Bat sketty. Okay. So I have a Batman detective question for you, TJ, since you are the more comic knowledgeable of us all. Reaching into my mental archive Rolodex here, I was trying to figure out, other than them wanting to explain the timeline with the spaghetti, if I'm correct, I was thinking that was one of the only foods I think Bruce Wayne still knew how to make from his juvenile years, because wasn't that his favorite dish that Alfred always made for him?
I think it was. I think you are correct.
Yeah. That's why I put two and two together. I'm like, that's a very subtle and smart Easter egg there. Because I remember, I think that was his comfort food, because he always loved the way Alfred made spaghetti for him. I know I read that in a couple different issues.
And at the same time, the spaghetti, that's the same meal that changes Barry's life for that can of tomato sauce.
Exactly.
This whole movie is off spaghetti.
I had spaghetti today for dinner.
You were preparing for this episode, huh?
Hell yeah.
Back to that spaghetti monster with the guy.
But even before you see Bruce Wayne himself, just that walk up and you see the gates of Wayne Manor away, you're just like, dude, that's Wayne Manor. And then the shot of Wayne Manor itself, just all decrepit, beat up, and nobody's done the lawn in probably 30 years.
As soon as they enter the house, it's like they have the same inner decor, those same samurai suit statues, the same ones that they reference in the 1989.
Okay, so it's funny that you mentioned that, because when he walks in there, do you remember back in 89 when Vicky Vale and Knox were walking in there looking at the statues? He goes, "Oh, look at him. He must have been king of the Wicker people."
Check this out. He must have been king of the Wicker people. Where'd this come from?
I have no idea.
So I was looking for that statue, and I literally said it out loud. I go, "Where's the king of the Wicker people?" But I love how they try to recreate that 89 look, especially in Wayne Manor. Even the kitchen that scene took place in looked like the kitchen
the same
from 89.
Yeah,
it did. And he's still listening to those classic vinyls.
Oh, yeah.
Man, vinyl is making a comeback, bro.
Yeah.
Chicago.
They're trying to put you back in 89.
Okay. And it was so small, but it explained a lot. Batman 89 episode, we called Gotham City its own character. Because it was always dark, gloomy, and stuff like that. So coming in here, you saw sunlight and all this other stuff. But I like when he was talking to both Barrys and saying that Gotham City is one of the most safest place in the world, all because of him. So Batman 89 did his job way too well, where there is no crime.
Yeah, he eradicated everything.
Now, I guess it's all rainbows and sunshine. Just that little piece of dialogue went a long way and explained why this Gotham City was the way it was.
I still hated that city, though.
And if Gotham City is supposed to represent loosely based off of New York City in the 80s was a lot more dangerous than it is today. So, I mean, to say that it evolved and is now a safe place, you know, I've been to New York myself. I thought it was going to be dangerous because of movies. You could walk there, you know, in the middle of the night and it's totally safe. It's crazy.
You walk through Brooklyn,
After 2 o'clock.
That's a thing.
I walked through an alley and there was no ghost face. I was good.
Or Jason.
So I want to touch upon this too, or Jason, yeah. Now, in my opinion, I think because of the landscape of comic book movies, and let's face it, Marvel probably does own the title for that because they have more hits than misses. But lately they've been having misses. But anyways, I think Marvel manipulates the normal moviegoers. They're so used to Marvel pumping out all these movies to the fact when a different company does it, like, oh, they're just copying Marvel. I don't want to watch that. Or they can't relate to any of the other superhero movies that isn't Marvel. I mean, am I crazy, or do any of you guys actually see some truth into that?
No, there's truth in that. It's a constant battle of a one-upsmanship. It's like Coca-Cola and Pepsi going after each other. It's a constant, it's literally going to be a never-ending battle as long as we're comic book fans and we keep those two industry engines moving, they're never going to be at a point where they're going to be either happy with one another or in an area where they're going to be equally margined with success. One is either going to do good for a period of time and then slow down, and then the other one's going to come forward and do pretty good for a little bit and slow down. It's just going to be a constant power struggle. Like I said it in previous episodes, DC for a long time was the monsters at the animated movies. They were phenomenal, but I've noticed now the quality of those are starting to come down. Marvel kind of stopped with their animated side because they weren't doing as good as when DC was doing it. The movies are the same way. The production side, Marvel was acquired by Disney. Disney is a huge juggernaut with what they can do producing movies, quality, production. Even though Warner Brothers is decent, they have nowhere near the amount of resources that Disney has to be able to put out something like that. So they're always going to be...
No, and you're right. And I think that Warner Brothers has like the Napoleon syndrome, like short man thinking he's like a 7 foot tall, 7 whatever basketball player. They don't have the money like Disney does.
Yeah,
so
that's very true.
I don't know why they're doing that. Yeah.
They can't push out the same amount as Disney, but I mean, in my opinion, I feel like Marvel movies have gone down since we've left Endgame. Since Thanos is gone, everything's gone down. But I feel like there are some DC movies that are starting to kind of come up in popularity. I'm thinking that shift that you were talking about, Zom, is starting to happen. And yes, Disney can produce a lot, but quantity is not always quality. And I don't feel like a lot of the quality for some of the newest Marvel things have even kept my attention. I feel like I skip 80% of the Marvel stuff because they're just oversaturizing the market. And for DC to take a bit of time like they did for this film, The Flash, and give us this movie that they did, it's worth all of the 8 Marvel series they had come out in that time.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you guys on that one. TJ, you're a wrestling fan. Look at WWE versus AEW. One gets bigger than the other one gets bigger than the other one. It's going to be the same thing with Marvel and DC. They're going to try to outdo what the other did previously.
Yeah, of course.
It's the money.
The
money market.
That's a really good analogy. Like, let's call Marvel WWE.
Exactly.
And DC is AEW. Now,
Perfect.
It's like, who has the bigger stars? DC has the big, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Marvel has, name them. Off the top of my head.
If anything, Marvel's losing their good ones. You know what I mean?
What do they have
Captain
right
America's
now?
gone. Iron Man's gone.
Yeah, no, true. DC right now, honestly, I think the quality of their television shows is far better than anything else they got going right now.
Yeah, Marvel got right now, Guardians of the Galaxy is like their biggest thing right now.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, since a lot of the actors don't want to play these characters anymore. Exactly. So to me, the only, if you want to call them aces up Marvel's sleeve now, it has to be X-Men and the Fantastic Four. And I'm just being nice with the Fantastic Four because they've rebooted it once after the first version, and those things bomb.
And so the newest X-Men ones, the New Mutants or whatever, all that was just trash.
Days of Futures Past.
The last Marvel movie I enjoyed myself was what was it? I don't know if I'm saying it right. Shang-Chi. Now, I liked it for the fact it didn't make really any comic or Marvel Universe references. I just took it as like a fantasy martial arts film. And that's why I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah.
So if you ignore all that Marvel, BS and enjoy it just by itself, it's a great film.
Yes, it's good.
I've talked about this with you, Zom. Like my one of my favorite characters from Marvel is Moon Knight. He's like DC or Marvel's version of Batman. I hated the series.
Yeah, they dropped the ball on that one.
Like, no disrespect to Oscar Isaac, but he was a horrible Moon Knight. We did it. It was like I think it was our second episode that we have done.
Yeah, 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah. So anyone is interested in listening to or hearing what we have to say on that, go back and listen to that episode.
Back catalog.
But what happens if the Fantastic Four and the X-Men don't succeed? And I already heard Deadpool's already in trouble. Like they're already dipping their toes in it. It's gonna suck. That's
don't tell me that.
Well,
Deadpool's like one of my favorite characters right now.
They just announced it too, that they pushed up the release date.
Yeah, they did.
So at this point, they're just gonna rush to get out.
Yeah,
because they're with the fact that the Flash, just according to the sources, broke all kinds of records and stuff.
So
even the fact that they're bringing back Wolverine, it's gonna suck.
Yeah. So
it might.
One of my other standouts in the film was, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Sasha Calle or Colleen.
Yeah, I think it's Calle.
Supergirl.
Yeah.
She was awesome in it. She looked phenomenal.
You know what? She was hot. She was hot as Supergirl.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think this is her first major motion picture.
It was her debut, because normally she was actually on Young and the Restless. So now I want to go watch Young and the Restless. No, I'm just kidding. But
from Young and the Restless to Young Justice.
Oh, there you go. I know.
She's I always say, less is more. She didn't really have a whole lot of dialogue, but I didn't think she embodied the character, because she was still kind of like, I don't know if I want to trust humans thing. That's
Yeah. They had to do all that character development within this film, which they did in just a couple of scenes. And she must have did such a great job that they're even in development making a Supergirl show. So now she could have her own show. You could just see more about her.
I would watch that. I would totally watch that. She did an awesome job.
She really did, man. She's actually the first Latina to portray Supergirl, and she nailed it.
I truly enjoyed the one scene you see where they're at that Russian base and they're up on top where they break out. I just like how they focused and they put that shot in there because she was away from the sun, not being able to rejuvenate herself and gain the powers from our Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see them pan over just to her hand, you see the Kryptonian side, where like you can see her hand was a little slender, more alien-like before it actually fully rejuvenated itself to the humanity side. I thought that was such a cool shot to put in there.
It was.
That was a good shot.
I know we're rambling on. Obviously, we totally forgot to explain the plot. I mean, everybody, basically, Barry goes back in time, tries to save his mom, messes up time, and has to face the repercussions of the film. Boom.
Over a can of tomato sauce.
Over a can of tomatoes.
Hence the Back to the Future reference.
And they made a lot of Back to the Future references in this film.
When he meets himself,
this all takes place in 2013. I mean, if anybody is a Back to the Future fan, then Michael J. Fox was not the original actor to play Marty McFly.
Correct.
Eric Stoltz.
It kind of took me a while to figure out. I knew what they were talking about, but I was like, wait, they're in a different time.
Yep.
Like, okay, so, Michael J. Fox played in Footloose, but Kevin Bacon played in Top Gun. So now you got to realize, well, where was Tom Cruise? What did he play?
He was in Predator.
Oh my God! No.
And then Arnold Schwarzenegger played in Risky Business.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was Rocky, man.
Oh yeah.
He was Rocky.
And then Stallone was the Terminator.
No, it isn't possible.
What's not possible? He's fantastic. This is his best performance ever.
But that was you. You were in that movie.
See?
There you go. It all comes full circle.
Oh, I like that one. That was the last action hero.
Last action hero.
Okay, and so now that's another thing. I wanted, like, DC, their worlds collide. dealing with the multiverse, us as, nerds, more or less, of everything, to the normals, do you think dealing with, because we're just getting into the multiverse territory with Marvel, with Doctor Strange, and then No Way Home, now with this movie, do you think it's a little too much for normal moviegoers that they kind of get turned off on it because it's so confusing?
Yeah, because since if you weren't coming up of the age when you got into comic books to where there was relatively a not so expansive multiverse of different artistic avenues and people writing storylines to go down that elaborate rabbit hole of all these different archetypes you can follow, yes, it's going to get very confusing. If you had a stepping stone of like, okay, I've read this story arc, this is what I know, and from there I can branch off and move on. Nowadays, you're hit with so many of them, you can be overwhelmed and lose interest because it's too much coming at you all at one time.
I mean, multiverses is the hot thing right now. They had the Doctor Strange films, the live action Spider-Man films, even the animated Spider-Man films across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
The multiverse is something that they're tapping into on both ends. And this is DC's chance to tap into the multiverse, give a chance to bring back some of those, cameos from old characters that played certain roles, which we can still get into because there's still that couple big moments that we haven't touched yet. And I'm looking forward to seeing when we get to talk about it, because that was an awesome moment for me to see all of these universes colliding. So yes, they're bringing in lots of different universes, things that maybe you didn't even watch or know, but it's just kind of throwing it all out there at you at once.
Yeah, but what Toxic is saying though, and I agree with it, is the fact that they're doing too much to rush out to put content rather than hone the craft of what that storyline is that they want to put out there. Because it's the multiverse, they're cranking out so much at one time, they're getting stumbled over their own feet.
And I mean, that's something that DC did before. I mean, Marvel had all the chance to make every individual character before making the Avengers. DC just went straight into the Justice League. Yeah,
that same references, because look what happened. We just touched about it. They had DC Titans, and then that failed. It already got canceled, even though it had a chance to go somewhere nice, but it didn't. I was worried about that because, again, you even mentioned it, SoCal, about the mutants or New Mutants. They went down that avenue and didn't make it. Mm-hmm. I was looking forward to a live-action series of, the Young Justice League, like they did for the animated series, which was phenomenal. But because those two stories or those two shows weren't successful, they decided to, scrap the idea. So that's why I agree with Toxic with that, because it is too much too soon, and they're just trying to crank out the content, but they're not really let's put together a plan. Let's give it a couple years. Let's fully develop this and then put it out, because they're just trying to one up one another and make the money.
And if you're going to do that, I feel it's best to just make a film, because you see these shows coming out, they're going so many seasons, and it's just a matter of time before all these shows, just like Arrow and all that, just turn into drama. I got into Arrow right when it started. I was into it. By the time it's the third season, it's all about baby daddy and who's not really my mom and all this stuff. And I was just like, I don't got time for this drama stuff. I just want to watch about the heroes. You know what I mean? Leave it for a film.
Yeah. And me not being a comic book guy, what it feels like to me is when I did read comics, there was always that little asterisk on the bottom. It's like, see issue number 6, Amazing Spider-Man or whatever, while you're reading another comic book. This is what it reminds me of. And they're just trying to throw that all in one movie. Yeah, it's oversaturating, basically, for people, for the
average fan,
the average fan,
This movie, The Flash, really does feel like two films at once, because you get to see Barry's origin story alongside this older Barry going through this paradox. So it really does seem like they mashed in two films to one. So you get to see that origin.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's like they could have made it part 1. They could have called it the Flashpoint Part 1 and then Part 2,
I mean, isn't the last 2 Mission Impossible movies Dead Reckoning Part 1?
Yeah.
Dead Reckoning they could have done that route.
They've done that many times.
Fast and Furious X Part 1.
I mean, I would have been okay with them doing that route if they kept it true to the comic. I would have been on board.
Yeah.
This story was told and done in a way that I felt was good enough that they didn't need a sequel.
I agree with that. Toxic. where are we at? What segment are we coming up on here?
Of course, we're going to talk about all the glorious cameos and the oh shit moments that happen in the film in the third act.
Yes.
So obviously,
mind you, there's spoilers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very spoilers.
We've had a little bit of spoilers.
Oh yeah. By the way, there are spoilers in this episode.
So once basically the multiverse, we find out Dark Flash or older Barry was behind all of this. I think they could have done a little better with the design. I mean, they calling him Dark Flash. I think they just kind of got lazy. Inhumanoid. Because in reality, the one in the book, it was Reverse Flash who did all of this, which I think would have been way better. But if you think about it, before we get into the cameo part, you never really see who killed Barry's mom.
Yeah. True.
So there is hope for it. Left Lisa door open for Reverse Flash.
Yes.
So when the multiverses were all opening everywhere, it was a sight to see.
Oh, man.
Not only did we get Michael Keaton, okay, the fact that like watching Michael Keaton throw down with a Kryptonian was awesome itself. Not the Superman version, but we still got it nonetheless. I loved it. I didn't like the fact that he died. At least in that verse, you know.
This was that was a really sad moment. I just had to touch on was like he tries to save him a few times. It's like the third time and he dies. And I think Across the Spider-Verse touches this definition well, but this movie chose to talk about spaghetti, is that there is just canon moments. There are canon events that need to happen. So no matter how many times he tries to change it, this canon event will keep happening. And he can't save Batman. And he tells him like,
I don't remember how the quote was, but it got me, and I was like, I teared up.
Oh yeah, I cried like
when he said,
I know which one you're talking about too.
I don't know how it was said because I only seen it once.
I'll tell you how it was said. He says, "Okay, we couldn't bring you back, could we?" And he says, "You already did."
Exactly. That was it. So when I heard that, I was just like, oh, I was like, man, because then it was that even. I'm sorry, I'm speechless right now because I'm trying to gather my emotions together. But that was 6-year-old me. Watching that. Michael Keaton. Inside, I was crying, and I was crying a little, and then my daughter, yet again, puts me on blast. Are you crying? I'm like, and then I said it because I don't want her to burn me like she did in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I'm like, oh my god, and I literally fanning my eyes. I'm like, okay,
because that's our childhood, man. It's our childhood.
Yeah. Well, that was also Michael Keaton's acting, where he understood the responsibilities of being that Batman for all of us in that generation, and him not having any direct kids himself. When you see him cup Barry's hand, that was a father and son connection moment where he was like, you did bring me back. Oh man, blubbering waterworks like a moron.
So you know what I wanted to do? Like as soon as I walked out, I was like, man, I want to binge watch a lot of Michael Keaton movies. That's what I thought.
Oh, we are getting Beetlejuice too. So.
And is it funny? I know we're going off topic a little. That two of his most iconic characters are returning a year apart from each other. Yep. It's great.
It was a plan, man.
Resurgence of his career.
You know,
they're making,
like I said, a lot of cameos. Like
still dividing. You didn't hear it?
I could say the fact that we got Helen Slater's Supergirl, we got Christopher Reeve's Superman.
Man,
George Reeves.
I saw Reeves.
George Reeves. Like I when I saw George Reeves, I kind of raised my eyebrow, like, huh? And then I kind of saw the trend. Then you see Adam West.
Adam West, Batman.
And then
my God.
then you see
Superman.
No. Then you hear Cesar Romero's laugh. I'm like,
yes.
I caught that.
Okay, I mean, all of those were great, but I literally
here it is.
The big moment for me, the oh crap moment I had is you see this version's world Superman fighting a giant spider you would see in The Hobbit. It was huge, you know, laser beams, long hair, and everything, and oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. What is it called? The red eyes. Can't even think of it now. Yeah. And then the moment the heat ray vision. Sorry. So the moment he stops and you get that close up, we see Nick Cage as Superman.
Yes.
Oh my god! And
I was getting chills when I seen the long hair, and I'm like, I know what this is.
And I literally said out loud, "Yeah," you know, like loud. You know, so
yeah.
And for people that don't know, Tim Burton in the, I think it was the early 90s, right? Early 90s?
Yeah.
Like early mid 90s, that he was going to make Superman. They went all the way to pre-production. Nicolas Cage. People
they
do
have
your
the script
research.
and everything.
Yeah. Do your research on YouTube. You see Nicolas Cage in the full Superman outfit. For whatever reason, they just scrapped it. Kind of like they did Batgirl.
I know I seen an interview with Kevin Smith when he was actually talking about when they wanted him to produce that movie. And they were saying that they had three rules that he wanted Kevin Smith to do. He said he didn't want Superman to fly. He said he didn't want Superman to wear his iconic suit. And he says he wants Superman to fight a giant spider.
Wait, who said that?
Well, we got one of them.
I know. I got to look up exactly who his name was.
But yeah, the fact that, and you know what? He was the perfect definition of 90s Superman in the comics. Superman had long hair, looked like he's gone a couple of metal shows, but yeah, like, and you know what? He was in there for quite a bit, at least in that scene.
Yeah.
And it was so glorious to see. Like, I got chills. Same thing. Like, oh my God. And then, I look over to your cousin, Poison, and because I kind of looked at her at the same time I had said that, and her mouth just dropped. And then,
just to touch back on there, bro, it was John Peters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He wanted Nicolas Cage to fight a giant spider in Superman Lives.
Real quick, just to come out of the bubble, I'm trying not to stray off topic, but you mentioned Kevin Smith again, SoCal. Did anybody see the stuff on the internet recently about Kevin Smith saying that he has like an uncut version of a Batman movie under Joel Schumacher, and he's planning to release it like sometime in July?
I heard about this. Was it Batman Forever?
Yeah, like he has
Batman
an
Forever,
uncut version of it, something like that, and it's supposed to be legit. Okay, that was just me throwing that in there.
No,
I would love to see that.
I'll watch it.
So after, Barry resets the timeline and everything, it's an unexpected cameo, but
it was great.
But it was great.
Yeah,
for the worst Batman movie ever.
But looking like a G still.
So he supposedly thought he reset the timeline back to normal. And then Bruce Wayne calls him. They found out his dad was innocent all along. So when he meets Bruce Wayne, gets out.
He changes the past.
And it's George Clooney.
It was awesome, dude. I was like, yeah.
I like the fact that George Clooney can make fun of himself now about it.
Yeah.
So he was like, no, I'll do it. He
was a G Bruce Wayne.
But that raises the question. Is George Clooney going to be that Batman going forward?
What did you call him, Dime, in the other Batman 89? You said he was Gotham's ass?
Oh,
Gotham's ass has returned to Gotham.
But I don't know if that was essential to the story. I think they just kind of threw that in as a joke.
Yeah.
They could always rework that. I thought that was cool. And then I said the same thing. I was like, no, I think I said, what the hell? I said it really loud.
I was the same way. There was probably about 5 moments in the movie where I was, oh my God, and like out loud. And people just like looked at me like, bro.
Yeah.
You don't know what this is? You don't know.
Exactly.
And I'm not a comic book guy. And I was like, oh, shit.
Now, with me just mentioning it, I know I just mentioned it, and I think I know why when I said Kevin Smith and he had a copy of Batman Forever. Kilmer was the only one we didn't see. He was the only variation of Batman we didn't see back in this one.
Christian Bale.
Well, I knew Christian Bale was going to do it, but I'm saying from the old Batmans, Kilmer's version was the only one. And we didn't even see Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, I would have thought.
You know what? I don't know. I would have to look on YouTube again. I don't know if it was there and none of us caught it. But if it wasn't in there, it would have been really great if they would have stuck Kevin Conroy's animated version in there too. That would be icing on.
Why you gotta go do that, man? You gonna get me on the field?
Or at least just his voice in the background,
I would have cried. I would have cried. I'm like, Jesus,
Big
man.
time.
Just a cameo, yeah. I know. Val Kilmer actually, he has throat cancer. That's why he hasn't been really inside of movies and stuff.
Begs the question. Now, the end credit scene has Jason Momoa back as Aquaman after, the timeline has kind of been messed with. So I'm assuming, because of Aquaman's coming out at the end of the year, is he actually staying as Aquaman in James Gunn's version?
True. We don't know how that's going to come about. But
exactly. Yeah. So we don't know. And the fact that like he's been very vocal about this for the longest, he wants to play a live action version of Lobo, which he would be amazing.
Oh, yeah, he would kill it.
The main man.
The fact you just mentioned Aquaman reminds me of another scene in the movie when Barry's talking to his dad and he goes, "Didn't you marry like the Queen of Land?" He looks over and he's like, "No." I was like,
"I have a son named Harper." Like, Harper's my dog.
You know, there's some funny moments of this film that we did skip over, like when Wonder Woman makes her appearance. Wonder Woman makes a cameo in this film.
Oh, the lasso of truth.
The lasso of truth
was great.
You actually get to see it and like bring that comedic value to this film was great. Batman just releasing
panicking, like, "Get this shit off me. Get it off me."
And then the Flash tries to touch it to help him out. And then that's where we got to what Dime's quote from earlier.
Yep. I know sex exists, but I just never experienced it.
And you know what? And it's funny because
a metaphor.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I never knew about that version of Barry Allen. Like, oh man, he's a virgin in this one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he spent his whole life just like I guess like alone and depressed and whatnot. That's why the other Barry, younger Barry, he's surprised when he finds out that he's going on a date. He's like, "Wait, you're not alone for life?"
So as we bring this episode to a conclusion of The Flash 2023, we're going to give our overall feelings and ratings. I'm going to start with you, Zom, since you kind of had a little haterade, but you mostly, from what I'm feeling, that you enjoyed the film overall. But what did you think?
So I need to know your grade scale on this. Are you doing it 1 to 5 or is it 1 to 10?
You know what? This time we're going to do 1 to 10. We're going to do 1 to 10 lightning bolts.
So if it has to be 1 to 10 scale of lightning bolts, just because I had my issue with the videography, not so much the CGI, just the videography were what they did, storyline wise and all, Keaton and all. For me personally, I'm going to give it a solid 6. It would have got an 8 if they did a little bit better with the cinematography.
I think because he wanted real babies falling out of that building. That's why.
Oh, it'd be awesome. Did you see him explode on impact? I missed one. No.
Damn.
What about you, SoCal?
I'm gonna bust up laughing again.
No,
it gives new meaning to a baby boomer.
The baby shower. Oh man. This movie was a fun ride. This movie from beginning to end. This was a 2 hour, like nearly 2.5 hours, but it went by and I didn't even feel bored. I didn't have to check my watch.
I think you said in the group chat, you're like, yeah, it's kind of amazing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, I know. I'm like, this movie is just kind of amazing. Like I said, I went in knowing the source material and seeing what they were going to do with it, knowing it wasn't going to be an exact replica. But the way that they handled it, the references that they brought in from that Batman 89 that we didn't even mention, like the Joker's laughing box is still owned. The way you see all of Batman's classic tech that's just kind of looks all dated. The way Batman doesn't bring fear to people, the way he tried, he used to in the old film. He kind of like,
oh, I love that part where
he's trying to intimidate him.
Yeah, and then he flinches and the guy doesn't move.
When he's trying to like cut open that little lock at the bottom before that big scrotum that they call it falls on them, and he just has a little tiny laser, and they're like, really? I love that they brought that humor to this film. I just, like I said, I had a blast with this one. This one's going to get 9 out of 10 lightning bolts for me. The thing that could have made it a perfect. Yeah, I know. I really enjoyed this film. I could see myself owning it, revisiting it. The thing that would have made it more of a 10 was, it was out of their control. But if they would have had more of the original actors, if they were able to stick more to the original storyline, I would have enjoyed it that much more, and it would have been perfect. But for what they had at their disposal, I think they did a really great job portraying this story arc for the DC universe.
It's all right. We can all say it was the fact we got to see Michael Keaton's Batman actually get down with some amazing Ben Affleck quality Batman fighting skills and a movable bat suit.
Yep. See, and then that's another thing. This Ben Affleck Batman, I feel like he brought something that we lost in the Christian Bale Batman, versions, is that he had all this cool tech that just kept reminding me of like Adam West Batman, where he just had a perfect tool for everything. Yeah. You only see Ben Affleck as Batman just at the beginning of this film, but just from that scene alone, just the tech that he uses, I'm like, dude, that's just so Batman. That's so Batman tech. I was loving it.
Dime.
Well, TJ, you're gonna appreciate this because you've been to a movie theater with me. 2 hour and 25-minute movie, not counting the previews. Close to 3 hours.
Don't tell me. It's a miracle.
Not one time did I get up to go use the restroom.
Yeah,
it's a miracle.
Because I did not want to miss a second of this freaking movie, man.
You know
I was in.
You know what he probably did? He right before he left the house, he looks at his junk like, you don't mess this up for me. I want to see this movie. Okay, I don't like you. You don't like me, but we got to compromise.
Sometimes you got to put a clothespin on it, man. You got to wrap a couple rubber bands over it.
I did have a couple beers. The Batwing go up against the moon again. That was an awesome scene.
Yeah, dude. His kidneys may be failing, but he didn't go to the bathroom.
But you know what? I was thoroughly entertained by this movie. One thing I'm going to say, if you lost a loved one, if you ever lost a loved one, the ending when he's in the supermarket with his mom,
man,
and he has to fix what he messed up, dude, I was bawling like a little girl, man. I swear to God, you know, and it just brought me back to my mom, Christina. You know, she was bawling next to me. So you know what, this movie's a great movie. Go out there, drop $20 on a ticket. Oh, sorry, TJ. But yeah, go out there, drop $20 on a ticket, go see this movie. You're not going to be disappointed. You know what? 10 out of 10 lightning bolts for me.
Whoa!
Yes.
Okay, so I got to run, but I'm going to give you my rating. You know what? As much as I liked it, I think overall I gave it a 9.5. If they would have kind of touched up the CGI when, you know, you see both berries on there. That was the only thing that kind of bugged me. But other than that, this movie was solid.
Sweet.
Okay, end it.
Well,
and just like that,
what's your rating, man? What out of 10? We just ending it like that.
Yeah.
He said 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
He said 9 out of 10. Okay, so real quick, with the pun intended, and just like that, we are Corpses for Conversation, a music, movie, media, gaming, geek culture podcast, and we're out of here in a flash.